Biologically, a human is Homo sapiens, a species characterized by bipedalism, a large brain, and complex language. Philosophically and culturally, definitions vary across time and thinkers, often emphasizing reason, consciousness, morality, or sociality. This definition follows the materialist position that everything is physical, but we see the definition of man, prioritizing physical attributes does not work well. It certainly does not work as well as it does for animals. One can remove the ability of man to talk and walk and even find a man with a small brain, and he would be as much of a man as any other. Physical attributes are not significant when it comes to man. This fact is what lays behind the rejection of racism. Physical attributes are not significant enough to create racial hierarchies. But, primarily because of our focus on naturalist explanations, the definition of man has always been a problem. Plato, c. 428–348 BCE. In the Republic and other dialogues, defined humans as rational souls temporarily housed in physical bodies. He emphasized reason as the divine spark distinguishing humans from animals, with the soul striving for truth and the forms, eternal ideas. But this way of thinking tends to see man as a duality composed of a physical and spiritual component. In Nicomachean Ethics and Politics, Aristotle, 384–322 BCE, called humans the rational animal, zoon logikon, and a political animal, zoon politikon. Reason and the capacity for deliberate choice, proeresis, set humans apart, but they achieve their telos, purpose, through social and virtuous living in a polis, community. Again, we see a tendency towards duality. In his notable work, Confessions and City of God, Augustine, 354–430 CE, viewed humans as created in God's image, imago Dei, but flawed by original sin. Humans are a composite of body and soul, with the soul's capacity to love and seek God as their defining trait, though free will leads to moral struggle. Thomas Aquinas, 1225–1274, in Summa Theologica, a work relying heavily on Aristotle and Christian theology, defined man as a rational animal, and his good is to live according to reason. René Descartes, 1596–1650, took dualism to its final level. Humans were defined by Descartes as thinking substances, residential cogitans. Distinct from extended, material substances, residential extensa. Immanuel Kant, who lived, 1724–1804, wrote in his Metaphysics of Morals and Critique of Practical Reason, that humans are rational beings capable of autonomy and moral agency. Humans are able to act according to universal moral laws, guided by the categorical imperative. His seminal statement was, "Act in such a way that you treat humanity, always as an end and never merely as a means." Jean-Jacques Rousseau, 1712–1778. A liberal thinker saw humans as naturally good but corrupted by society. In their natural state, humans are driven by self-preservation and compassion, but civilization introduces inequality and artificial desires. Karl Marx, 1818–1883, defined humans as creative, productive beings who realize themselves through labor. However, under capitalism, alienation from labor, products, and others distorts this essence. Humans are inherently social and historical. Friedrich Nietzsche, 1844–1900, saw man as a transitional species destined to become as the gods. All of these forays into the nature of man led to Jean-Paul Sartre, 1905–1980, and other existentialists declaring life to be absurd, devoid of meaning. In Sartre's world, humans have no fixed nature, they define themselves through free choices and actions in an absurd, godless world, bearing full responsibility for their meaning. According to Grok, humans are a biological entity, Homo sapiens, with a unique capacity for self-awareness, complex language, and creative agency, shaped by social, cultural, and historical contexts. Humans are distinguished by their ability to reflect, cooperate, and construct meaning, whether through reason, morality, or narrative, while navigating the tension between individual freedom and collective interdependence. However, these definitions are more illustrative in what they seek to avoid than in what they hope to achieve. Even though they all seek to define what man is, what they do is serve to illustrate how unlike the rest of creation, we are. The most that these definitions do is to demonstrate humans cannot be taxonomically treated the way the rest of carbon-based creation is. For animals and plants, it is enough to list a few physical criteria. We can see what a dog is by the physical features of a dog. Even though the basic morphology is similar, anyone can tell the difference between dogs and cats. Man is not tied to his body because man is too complicated and individualistic. Generalizations do not hold up well when it comes to people. But that is the point, mankind is self-generative. Men define who they are. This is not meant in a subjective sense. We do not get to decide if we are men or women, no more than if we can decide if we are a doctor or a baker. There are credentials that must be validated. On the other hand, we can be a doctor or baker or anything else, if we do the work. We can become what we envision ourselves to be, if we can meet the criteria. We are a self-created creature, remembering that the created thing is itself a known quantity. We can self-create but only within the limits set by God. Self-creation is not a limitless ability but a right given by our purpose, which is to be of use. Our identity cannot diminish our usefulness. Our first obligation is to be useful. We have the opportunity to acquire an identity within the conditions set out by God. We must be of use, but within the limits set by this obligation, we can pick our own way to manifest our purpose. Our purpose is our ideal. We live and die according to our ideals. These express our purpose. God is the highest and most perfect of all conceptions and represents the highest possible ideal and the most perfect of all purposes. It was said, in The Two Races and a Definition of Man, 2023, that, man is the organism that lives according to a verifiable truth. Yet there are many who do not. Therefore, there is man the perfected who lives in a way that can be tested and verified sane, and there is man who lives in a way that is personal and emotional. It cannot be verified sane as it is based entirely on subjective criteria. The verification of who we are is done by the value of our work. We strive for verification because in this we obtain or validation. We are validated by the value of the work we do. Our value and our identity and the fulfillment of our purpose are all obtained by means of our work. Indeed, one way to define man is as the organism that works, in the economic sense of the word. We survive and obtain our identity by means of our work. Other creatures build, but they do not work in that they do not live by exchanging the fruits of their labor, in pursuit of an ideal or the achievement of a purpose. Mankind is consumed by his image of perfection. It is in this sense that we are self-created, for we create our own identity in the work we do and in the value we generate by means of our work. We are self-created beings because we are made in the image of God, but it is in the work that we do in the fulfillment of our purpose, that we achieve our identity. In conclusion, man is the creature with a purpose, he is a creature governed by ideals. The higher his ideals, the more he is motivated.